With every page I write for my new historical fiction, I'm falling more and more in love with the Constitution of the United States. I never realized just how singular it is in world history. Now, as you know, my new story focuses on the conquest of Peru by the Spanish. My research and study focuses on both what's happening in Europe with the Spanish, and at the same time what's happening in the New World with the indigenous peoples in the Americas. My curiosity led me to the liberation of the Americas from each of those countries who had conquered the New World. That, of course, leads me into the American Revolution, which brought about the birth of the United States and the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. But it also led me into the liberation of South America and its great liberator, Simon Bolivar. As you may remember, I served as a missionary in the country of Bolivia, of course named after its liberator, Simon Bolivar. Ergo, I had to bone up on Bolivia's, Peru's, Chile's, Ecuador's, Colombia's, and Venezuela's liberation from the Spanish. What a fascinating and heartbreaking story. Here's the Cliff Notes version. The New World, the Americas, were discovered late 1400s. Central and South America were conquered in the early 1500s by famous conquistadors, Cortés and Pizarro. At the same time in Europe, the Reformation, Inquisition, persecution, and the like drove liberty-loving people to North America. Though much less bloody, North America was settled in the late 1500s and early 1600s. Now, don't misunderstand my oversimplification here, but if you compare the bloody conquests by the Spanish of the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayans to the migration and settlement of the English and the French further north, one was driven by greed, domination, and control. The other was driven by those seeking liberty, freedom, and to be rewarded by their own personal striving for happiness. Now, in the span of about 50 years, from 1775 to 1825, the 13 American colonies defeated the English to gain their liberty. The French rolled a few heads, trying to gain their liberty from the tyranny of the monarchy, only to end up with the tyranny of Napoleon. Now, in South America, a dozen unique groups of people struggled to be free of the Spanish tyranny. Now, that tyranny was pushing 300 years. The founding fathers in the 13 colonies were the only ones that succeeded in creating a constitution, a united nation that has maintained that hard-won liberty ever since. In South America, the liberator Simon Bolivar united the people in battle against the Spanish. In 1824, the representative from Spain, the Spanish viceroy, finally surrendered. Panama, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, and Bolivia were all free. Bolivar's dream of uniting these states into one united nation, like he saw Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Franklin, our founding fathers do up north here, it was never to be. Now, the answer is a bit more complex than this, but in my simplicity, Simon Bolivar only had a couple loyal generals, both of who were eventually assassinated. He had no founding fathers. He had no leaders willing to put country ahead of self. He had no divine intervention to help establish a Constitution, Bill of Rights that would stand the test for 240 years, like ours, being pounded on by every element trying to pull it down. And just as the 13 colonies were divided by slavery, Bolivar's insistence on abolishing slavery was a hurdle the local elite resisted, which was a major reason the South American countries would never unite. Now, one more free tidbit of information here before I get back to work. In the 200 years since Bolivar liberated these countries in South America, Bolivia has had 17 constitutions, Colombia 10, Peru 10, Ecuador 20. Chile had 10, and according to the New York Times, the Chilean people just rejected a new constitution and voted to keep the 1980s version. Venezuela's current constitution, drafted in the mid-1999, is number 27 constitution, and between them, 94 constitutions. And as for France, 15. What Simon Bolivar, the great liberator, would have given for a few founding fathers.